Hey son, today I want to talk about that a good advice can actually be the worst advice someone can give. When people ask how do I get the mix to sound good, an often common answer is use your ears. And that's true. If it sounds good, then it is good. But in order for it to sound good everywhere, you need to have a proper acoustic treated room. I wish somebody had told me years ago, if you're mixing in a bad sounding room, then your mixes would translate wrong when you're listening in other places. What I mean is, let's say it like this. I'm pretty sure that everyone that's doing a mix, that's know a little about EQ and compression, all your mixes sounds good in your studio, in your room. They sound awesome. I get it. I've been one of those guys. And then you go to the car or you go to a friend's house and you listen to, I don't know, a couple of headphones and stuff. And then it don't sound as good anymore. And that's because your mixes are tuned to sound good at your room, in your room and at your studio. If your room got too much bass, then your mixes will lack of bass when you listen to another place, and vice versa. So if your room has too little bass, which is kind of normal, then your mixes will have too much bass when you listen to it at other places. You don't need to be a professor in sound treatment, but you need to study some of it. You need to get rid of at least the first reflections that you have in your room, because you're gonna make the wrong decisions. If you can't hear it right, you're making the wrong decisions. So the only way you're gonna get your mixes to sound good in other places is to have a flat. I mean, you can't have total flat, but you want as flat as possible, and you want the reverberation as short as possible. When I got my degree in music production, I also studying some acoustic treatment. So when I built the studio, I had a chance to design my treatment from the ground up, and I actually built a whole new building just to have a music studio. So I live out in the countryside. So my theory with the studio is that the sound will leave the house. All the high frequencies will be eaten up in the walls, and all the bass frequency will leave the house. That's how I designed it, and I must say I'm pretty happy. Reverberation time is something you need to look into. It's called RT60, which basically means it's going from the measuring point and drops 60 decibels, 60 dB, so you don't hear. And that's roughly that you can't hear anything anymore. And then they check all the frequencies. So my RT60, my reverberation time is 0.2 seconds from 20,000 down to 40 hertz. And between 30 and 40 hertz is a half a second. And I'm really happy with this, how this turned out. And the difference between, and the dB difference of all the spectrum, it's about the biggest leap between highest dB and lowest dB of all the spectrum is 5 dB. But all the dips and highs is like 2 to 3 dBs difference. So it's pretty flat. And what I can tell is that when I record stuff and I mix stuff and I go and I always take my mixes out to the car and I listen to them. sounds practically the same. The best advice that people doing when they're telling you you should use your ears, it's true, use your ears. But if you have a room that's not done for music or recording, then you can't use your ears. Then you are in big trouble. Then you're gonna have to use headphones or to get rid of the room equation. I don't know. I just thought that this is something that I want to talk about because we have a lot of trouble. I see a lot of trouble about it. I see people buying new gears and output gears and new plugins and new everything and new speakers, and unless you have a room that sounds good, it don't have to be totally flat, but I mean you need to have kind of flat. You're gonna run into issues. You're not gonna be happy with your mixes, or you're gonna be happy with the mixes in that space, but as soon as you go to another place it's gonna sound awful. And I have done this so many years. I have had this trouble for so many years. So I'm very happy now with my new studio. So that was all I had to talk about today. So let me know what you want me to talk about, and please subscribe, and you know the drill. Goodbye.